Otis Redding's music career spanned less than a decade and was cut tragically short when he died at just 26. Despite his brief time in the spotlight, Redding is considered one of the greatest and most influential musicians, both during his life and after. Yet, like many celebrities, beyond the glitz and glamour, he was no stranger to scandals, rumors, and criticism. Now his son has come forward with new revelations that shed light on these long-standing rumors. Join us as we delve into Otis Redding's fascinating life and uncover the truths behind the rumors his son has confirmed. Before we talk about the rumors surrounding Otis Redding, let's take a step back and explore Otis's early life and remarkable career that set the foundation for his legendary status in the music world. Born in the American South in 1941, Otis Redding's early life was marked by financial struggle. His father, a sharecropper, barely made enough to support his mother and their 6 children. Despite these hardships, Redding demonstrated remarkable resilience from a young age. As a child, Redding found solace and expression through music, starting with performances in his church. His natural talent was evident, and at just 10 years old, his parents enrolled him in singing and drumming lessons. These early experiences hinted at a promising future, but his path was soon overshadowed by tragedy. In the mid-1950s, Redding's life took a devastating turn when his father fell gravely ill with tuberculosis. This left Redding, still a teenager, as the primary support for his family, even though he was the 4th of 6 siblings. With his father frequently hospitalized, Redding was thrust into a challenging role far beyond his years, facing responsibilities that no child should have to bear. At the age of 15, Otis Redding made the difficult decision to drop out of school, redirecting his efforts toward supporting his family financially. To make ends meet, he took on a variety of jobs, including the grueling work of digging wells. Despite the demanding nature of these jobs, Redding never abandoned his passion for music, which had been a constant source of inspiration in his life. Redding's musical influences were unconventional for his time. His idol, Little Richard, was a polarizing figure in the mid-1900s. While Little Richard was widely recognized for his extraordinary musical talent, his unconventional romantic and religious views often drew criticism. Nonetheless, his bold approach and charisma left a significant mark on Redding, motivating him to persist in his musical ambitions despite the odds. Redding's first major break came in 1958 with a talent competition called the Teenage Party. He entered the competition with high hopes, arranging to sing and assembling a band to support him. However, the band's performance didn't quite match the energy of Redding's vocals, leading to a pivotal moment. One notable musician, unimpressed by the band's execution, made a critical decision that would dramatically alter Redding's trajectory. By the time Otis Redding entered the Teenage Party Talent Contest, Johnny Jenkins was already renowned as one of the most skilled musicians in town. Jenkins was so impressed by Redding's vocal prowess that he offered to replace Redding's existing band with his own. This crucial decision marked the beginning of Redding's meteoric rise. That night, Redding performed a Little Richard song and won the contest, a victory he would repeat every week for the next 15 weeks. Redding's dominance at the contest was unprecedented. For the next 3.5 months, he entered the competition weekly and emerged victorious each time. The cash prize was a significant boost, providing much-needed financial relief for him and his family. However, the monetary reward was not the only prize Redding walked away with. During one of his performances at the Teenage Party, Redding met 16-year-old Zelma Atwood. Despite being just a few years older, he was immediately drawn to her. After the show, the two went for a walk together, which, while seemingly romantic, quickly turned into a heated argument, according to Atwood's account. Her outspoken nature was likely a factor in the initial conflict. Nevertheless, Redding was captivated by her spirit, and the two quickly became inseparable. Their bond was so strong that they made a significant decision together, setting the stage for a transformative chapter in both their lives. Just a year after their initial meeting, Otis Redding and Zelma Atwood welcomed their first child, Dexter. This early start to parenthood was somewhat expected from a pair of teenagers deeply in love. However, their next steps were anything but conventional. Barely a year after Dexter's birth, the young couple decided to marry. While many might assume that settling down at this point would mean focusing on family life and domestic responsibilities, Redding's career trajectory was taking an exciting and unexpected turn. Following his string of victories at the Teenage Party Talent Contest, Redding's career began to gain significant momentum. He started securing numerous gigs and eventually stepped into the role of lead singer for Johnny Jenkins's band. But that wasn't the only noteworthy development. Redding also took over the lead singer position in the Upsetters, a band previously fronted by his idol, Little Richard, who had shifted his focus to gospel music. At this pivotal moment, Redding felt he was on the cusp of something great and was willing to make sacrifices for his burgeoning career. Shortly after tying the knot, Otis Redding set off for Los Angeles, leaving Zelma behind in their hometown. Determined to make a name for himself, he immersed himself in the vibrant music scene of the city, making crucial connections and recording his early tracks, including I'm Getting Hip and Gamalama. Despite his enthusiasm and hard work, Redding's journey to stardom was far from smooth. If you've ever listened to Otis Redding's soulful music, you might be surprised to learn that his early performances were less than fluid. Initially, he struggled with movement and appeared somewhat stiff on stage. His tall frame only accentuated this awkwardness, making his performances seem even more conspicuous. Yet the challenges he faced extended beyond just stage presence. Redding began his career during a time when America was deeply segregated. Despite his undeniable talent, he wasn't able to perform just anywhere. Instead, he found himself touring what was known as the Chitlin Circuit, a network of venues catering specifically to Black entertainers and audiences. This circuit was a crucial but limiting platform for Black artists at the time. To break out of this circuit and achieve wider recognition, Redding needed a stroke of luck. Fortunately for him, fate would soon deliver just that. Otis Redding's breakthrough came about through a combination of chance, timing, and undeniable talent. In 1962, Redding was driving his good friend and musical collaborator, Johnny Jenkins, to a recording session at Stax Records. The day didn't go as planned for Jenkins, who struggled to find his groove and ended his session early. With some studio time still remaining, Redding saw an opportunity to make his own mark. Eager to seize the moment, Redding decided to use the leftover recording time. He had already been writing his own songs, and he brought 2 of them to the studio. His first attempt was with a track titled Hey Hey Baby. However, the studio head, Jim Stewart, was quick to shut him down, criticizing the song for sounding too similar to a Little Richard tune, a notable critique given Redding's admiration for the rock and roll star. Determined not to let this setback stop him, Redding took another shot. His second attempt proved to be a game-changer. This time, he hit the right note, showcasing his unique voice and style. This pivotal moment marked the beginning of Redding's rise in the music industry, setting the stage for his future success. Otis Redding's career took a dramatic turn with the release of his song These Arms of Mine, a track that catapulted him into the limelight. According to Jim Stewart, the studio head at Stax Records, there was something different about the ballad. He really poured his soul into it. And indeed, it was not only Redding's soul, but a stroke of luck that played a role in this pivotal moment. Released in October, These Arms of Mine quickly became a sensation, selling over 800,000 copies and setting the stage for an album release the following year. The song's success marked the beginning of Redding's ascent to stardom. However, the journey to the top was not without its setbacks. Soon after the triumph of These Arms of Mine, Redding faced a significant misstep with the release of Mary's Little Lamb. Attempting to innovate, he incorporated brass instruments and background singers into the track. Unfortunately, the experiment did not resonate with his audience, making Mary's Little Lamb one of his least successful singles. Despite this setback, Redding's resilience shone through. He dusted himself off and continued to push forward. Otis Redding's debut album, Pain in My Heart, was released in 1964 and quickly made its mark. The album not only debuted on several music charts, but also climbed the Billboard Hot 100, signaling Redding's burgeoning success. With his star on the rise, he began receiving opportunities to expand his musical reach. However, the journey wasn't as glittering as it seemed. In the 1960s, the Apollo Theater was a prestigious venue for black artists, so landing a gig there was a significant milestone for Redding and his band. It seemed like a major achievement, but the reality was far from ideal. Although they were paid $400 per week, equivalent to nearly $4,000 today, the situation was far from lucrative. Redding and his band had to pay $450 each week to cover performance expenses, leaving them with little to no profit. Additionally, they stayed in a big old raggedy hotel, adding to their frustrations. Despite these setbacks, Redding's luck was about to change in ways no one could have predicted. Performing at the Apollo Theater not only put Otis Redding on a prestigious stage, but also introduced him to a circle of influential and wealthy celebrities, including boxing legend Muhammad Ali and singer-producer Ben E. King. Notably, when King learned of Redding's struggles, he generously provided financial support to help him through tough times. This act of kindness was a pivotal moment that helped Redding push forward toward a promising future. As Redding moved into 1965, his career gained significant momentum. Despite a well-known DJ's attempt to brand him as Mr. Pitiful due to his soul-stirring, mournful songs, audiences were captivated by his emotive performances. The more the crowds embraced his music, the harder Redding worked, almost to the point of becoming a workaholic. While recording his next album, Redding and his team famously completed almost the entire project within a single 24-hour session. His dedication to his craft was evident in his commitment, as he missed only 2 performances throughout his career. Redding's relentless work ethic and drive for excellence underscored his belief that working harder than his peers was the key to his success, a belief that proved to be well-founded. By the late 1960s, Otis Redding was enjoying tremendous financial success. He invested a substantial portion of his earnings in a sprawling 300-acre ranch in Georgia, where he settled his wife and children. Although he was often on the road, his wife appreciated his frequent returns to be with his family. However, not all of his spending was as prudent. Redding had a flair for fashion, and as his wealth grew, so did his collection of stylish suits and shoes. His wardrobe became a testament to his success, reflecting his desire to look sharp and sophisticated. During this period, he continued to release chart-topping hits like Respect and I've Been Loving You, which not only solidified his place in the music industry, but also began to attract the attention of a wider audience. Understanding that his music had universal appeal, Redding sought to broaden his reach beyond his traditional audience. He became one of the first soul artists to perform for American rock fans, who embraced his music enthusiastically. Despite his growing success, Redding faced challenges from those who sought to limit his ability to express his true self. In 1966, Otis Redding set his sights on recording a song that had already been covered by legends like Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra. Given his rising prominence, it seemed only natural that he should be able to put his unique spin on any song he chose. However, he faced unexpected resistance from the publishers, who objected to his interpretation being from a Negro perspective. Despite this, Redding persisted and went ahead with his vision. His rendition of Try a Little Tenderness turned out to be a major triumph. Not only did it become one of his greatest and most commercially successful songs, but it also became the definitive version for many listeners. Redding's ability to overcome the publisher's objections and deliver such a powerful performance underscored his exceptional talent and resilience. In the years that followed, Redding took his distinctive sound to new heights. He performed across Europe to large audiences and made history by becoming one of the first black artists to play to predominantly white crowds in the U.S. Just as he was reaching the zenith of his career, however, a serious health issue emerged, casting a shadow over his remarkable achievements. By late 1967, Otis Redding faced a significant challenge when doctors diagnosed him with larynx polyps. These growths on his vocal cords jeopardized his most crucial asset, his voice. Despite initially trying to manage the condition with natural remedies, Redding ultimately had to undergo surgery in September to address the issue. The required downtime for recovery didn't deter Redding's creativity. While he couldn't perform, he remained productive, channeling his energy into songwriting. During his 2-week recovery, he penned over 30 new songs, demonstrating his relentless dedication to his craft. When he was finally able to return to performing, Redding emerged with a refreshed and innovative sound. His time away from the stage had infused him with new inspiration, particularly from the Beatles' album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Eager to explore this new influence, Redding collaborated with his writing partner to create a song with a sound reminiscent of the groundbreaking Beatles album. However, his attempts to record this new material were met with resistance from those around him, making his creative journey all the more challenging. It seemed that no one was on Redding's side during this period. Neither his production crew at Stax, nor the head of the studio, nor even his wife. Despite the lack of support, Redding forged ahead, determined to record his new song, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay. This song, which he hoped would capture the turbulent spirit of the times, was his way of reflecting on the difficult year the nation had endured. Its brilliance would eventually become apparent, but it came in the wake of a devastating tragedy. The day before his fatal accident was a typical busy day for Redding and his band. They had performed several concerts and made television appearances in Cleveland. After wrapping up their engagements, they boarded Redding's personal plane, a Beechcraft H-18, for a flight to Wisconsin, where they were scheduled for another gig. The weather on the day of the flight was far from ideal, with heavy rain and dense fog. Despite the adverse conditions, the group decided to proceed. Initial moments of the flight were uneventful, but trouble soon began to surface. A few miles from their destination, the plane encountered difficulties. The exact nature of the problems remains unclear, but the situation quickly deteriorated. Tragically, the plane crashed into Lake Monona, sealing the fate of Redding and his bandmates. On that fateful flight, Otis Redding and 5 members of his backing band, the Bar-Kays, were on board. Miraculously, only one of them survived, Ben Cauley. The harrowing details of Redding's final moments come from Cauley's chilling account. According to Cauley, he had been asleep when the plane started its descent. He awoke to find Phelan Jones looking out the window in alarm, exclaiming, "Oh no!" The next thing Cauley remembers is unbuckling his seatbelt just before everything went dark. He managed to stay afloat on a seat cushion until rescuers arrived. Tragically, Cauley was unable to swim, which meant he couldn't have helped his bandmates if he had been given the chance. The following day, the authorities confirmed the devastating news. Redding's body was recovered from Lake Monona. At just 26 years old, his life and career, which had just begun to soar, were abruptly cut short. The news of Otis Redding's untimely death sent shockwaves through his extensive fan base. The outpouring of grief was so immense that his family had to move the funeral to a larger venue to accommodate the throngs of people wishing to honor his memory. Over 4,500 mourners attended, turning the service into a monumental tribute to the late star. Yet even in death, Redding's legacy continued to shine. His final recording, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay, was released just a month after his passing. Despite initial resistance from his team, who were skeptical about the song, it achieved a poignant success. The track not only became a massive hit, but also earned the distinction of being Redding's first and only chart-topping single, cementing his place in music history. The story behind the song: Otis Redding's tragic hit, Sittin' On, the Dock of the Bay. Sittin' On. The Dock of the Bay stands out as one of Otis Redding's most iconic and enduring songs. Co-written with the esteemed soul guitarist Steve Cropper, this track holds a special place in Redding's legacy due to its profound significance and tragic backstory. The song's creation is wrapped in a veil of legend and melancholy, as it was penned just days before Redding's untimely death in a plane crash. Redding began crafting the lyrics for Sittin' On the Dock of the Bay in August 1967, while residing on a rented houseboat in Sausalito, California. The composition process continued in Memphis, where Redding collaborated with Cropper, who was both a Stax producer and a guitarist for Booker T and the MGs. The song was completed on December 7, 1967, merely 2 days before Redding's fatal plane crash. Redding's plane, a Beechcraft H-18, was en route to Madison, Wisconsin for a performance at the Factory nightclub on December 10, 1967. The plane went down after Redding and his band had appeared on the upbeat television show in Cleveland and played 3 concerts over 2 nights at Leo's Casino. The crash claimed the lives of Redding, along with 4 members of the Bar-Kays, guitarist Jimmy King, tenor saxophonist Phelan Jones, organist Ronnie Caldwell, and drummer Carl Cunningham, as well as their valet, Matthew Kelly, and the pilot, Fraser. Redding's death occurred just 5 months before the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, where the song was recorded. At that time, racial tensions were high, and the collaboration between Redding, a black artist, and Steve Cropper and Donald Duck Dunn, both white, symbolized a powerful defiance against the prevailing notions of racial discord. Their work together on Sittin' On the Dock of the Bay stood as a testament to unity and artistic collaboration amid the era's turbulent racial climate. Together, they completed the music and melancholic lyrics of Sittin' On the Dock of the Bay, which was taken from the sessions which, in the end, would be Redding's final recorded work. It is widely believed that Redding had considered the song to be unfinished and wanted to add his final touches of magic to the track, but this was opportunity taken away from him. Instead, Cropper did what he was thought to be right after Redding's death and added the distinct sound of seagulls and waves crashing to the background. This is what Redding had wanted to hear on the track, according to Cropper, who remembered Redding recalling the sounds he heard when he wrote the song on the houseboat. In an interview on NPR's Fresh Air, Cropper explained the origins of the song. Otis was one of those the kind of guy who had 100 ideas. He had been in San Francisco doing the Fillmore, and the story that I got, he was renting boathouse or stayed at a boathouse or something, and that's where he got the idea of the ships coming in the bay there. And that's about all he had. I watched the ships come in and I watched them roll away again. I just took that and I finished the lyrics, continued Cropper. If you listen to the songs I collaborated with Otis, most of the lyrics are about him. Otis didn't really write about himself, but I did. Songs like Mr. Pitiful, Fa 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 Fa, Sad Song, they were about Otis and Otis's life. Dock of the Bay was exactly that. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay, was all about him going out to San Francisco to perform, he added. Sittin' On. The Dock of the Bay was released just a month following Redding's death and became his only ever single to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in January 1968. With it, Redding confirmed himself as a talent lost far too soon. It remains a crying shame that Redding wasn't alive to witness his song topping the charts, with the track becoming the first posthumous #1 single in U.S. chart history. The album, The Dock of the Bay, also became the first posthumous album to reach the top spot on the UK Albums Chart. The posthumous success didn't end there. Redding had left behind a significant number of unreleased songs, which the record company began to release after his death. This provided fans with a continued connection to their beloved artist. However, the discovery of these unreleased tracks also revealed an unsettling reality for his team. Despite the success of his posthumous releases, the financial and emotional toll on those managing his legacy became evident. After Otis Redding's tragic death, the executives at Stax Records, who had been his longtime partners and the first to sign him, found themselves grappling with unexpected complications. They had hoped to renegotiate the distribution rights to his music, but were shocked to discover that they did not actually own his catalog. Despite their efforts, they were unable to regain the rights to his recordings. This oversight left Stax in a precarious position and added to the controversies surrounding Redding's posthumous legacy. Compounding the issue, Redding's family faced further challenges with the portrayal of his life in the public eye. After his death, numerous fans and authors continued to write about Redding, but not all accounts painted him in a favorable light. One particularly contentious biography published in 2001 by author Scott Freeman stirred controversy. Freeman's book suggested that Redding was not the hero his hometown had celebrated and claimed that he had been planning to divorce his wife shortly before his passing. These allegations were fiercely contested by Redding's widow, who vehemently denied the claims. Despite the challenges and negative press, Redding's musical legacy remained resilient. Following Otis Redding's untimely death, his legacy only continued to grow, cementing his place in the annals of music history. Posthumously, he received numerous accolades, including 2 Grammy Awards and a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. He was also honored with inductions into several prestigious halls of fame, a testament to his enduring influence on the music industry. In 2002, his hometown of Macon, Georgia, paid tribute to Redding's monumental impact by erecting a statue in his honor. Dubbed King of Soul, the statue serves as a lasting symbol of his contributions to the genre and his local roots. Redding's influence extended far beyond his immediate era. Though he had once idolized Little Richard, Redding himself became a revered figure for a new generation of musicians. Iconic artists such as Led Zeppelin, Al Green, and Janis Joplin cited him as a significant inspiration, showcasing the breadth of his impact on the rock and soul genres. Redding's legacy also manifested in philanthropic efforts initiated by his family. In 2007, his wife established the Otis Redding Foundation, dedicated to providing music resources and opportunities to young people. The foundation, now run by his daughter, continues to support aspiring musicians and perpetuate Redding's spirit of giving and mentorship. Despite his tragic and premature death, Redding's music and influence have left an indelible mark on the world, with his contributions continuing to resonate across generations.